Have you ever sat there, phone in hand, just waiting for her to reply, waiting for her to care, waiting for her to feel what you feel? You're always there. Every time she texts, you answer. When she calls, you pick up. When she feels sad, you ask, "Are you okay?" When she feels bored, you try to make her laugh. You give and give and give, but somehow she still pulls away. She still acts cold. She still treats you like a maybe. And you start to wonder, did I say something wrong? Am I not good enough? Why does she treat me like this when I've done everything right? But here's something nobody told you. Being available all the time doesn't make her love you. It makes her forget how special you are. Let that sink in. You are always there, always ready, always showing love. And in the beginning, that feels kind. It feels good. It feels like the right thing to do. But the truth is, people don't value what they never lose. They don't treasure what they never miss. It's like this. Imagine your favorite song. You love it at first. You play it again and again. Every day, every hour. But after a while, it fades. It doesn't hit the same. You skip it. You forget it. Why? Because you overheard it. You overplayed it. It lost its magic. That's what happens when you're always around. You become that song she doesn't care to hear anymore. Because it's always playing. You see, real value comes from space, from absence, from mystery. When a man disappears into his purpose, when he's busy with his own path, when he's not checking his phone every 5 seconds, hoping for her name to pop up, that's when her mind starts to wonder. Where is he? What's he doing? Why hasn't he called me? Who's he talking to? That's when you become interesting. That's when you become valuable. Not because you're playing games, not because you're trying to make her chase, but because you're finally living for you. Because your life is big, your goals are real, your time is precious, and she can either join that or miss it. You weren't made to sit by the phone. You weren't made to chase someone who doesn't even look back. You weren't made to be her emotional pillow. You were made for more. So here's the truth. If you're always there, she'll never think twice. But the moment you disappear into your mission, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you treat yourself like you matter, that's the moment she realizes what she had. So now you must ask yourself, are you willing to stop giving all your energy to someone who barely sees it? Are you ready to start giving that energy to you? Because once you do, she'll feel it, she'll miss it, she'll value it. And if she doesn't, then maybe, just maybe, she was never meant to hold it in the first place. Are you ready for that kind of power? Or will you stay the man who waits? What happens when you stop showing up first? Have you ever noticed something strange? When you send the first message, she replies slowly. But when you don't message first, she suddenly appears. Feels confusing, right? But here's the truth most men miss. You teach her how to treat you by how often you show up. Let's say you message her every morning. You say good morning every single day. You like her stories. You reply to her texts fast. You try to keep the connection alive. And guess what? At first she might smile, but after a while, she expects it. She doesn't feel the excitement anymore. She doesn't have to try. Because she knows you'll always be there. But what happens when you stop? What happens when you don't send that first text? When you don't reach out just to check on her? When you stop being the first one to show up? Her mind gets loud. Wait, what's going on? Did something happen? Why didn't he message me today? Now she has to think. Now she starts to wonder. And that is where attraction begins. Not in the chase. Not in giving more. Not in being extra nice. But in the space. When you don't show up first, she has to decide if you matter to her. That moment is powerful. Because suddenly she realizes you're not the guy who will chase forever. You're not the man who needs her attention to feel whole. You're not the one begging for a place in her life. You are grounded. You are focused. You are still. You don't react. You observe. And in your silence, in your distance, in your stillness, you say something louder than words. I'm not here to prove myself. I know my worth. And that's when her energy shifts. She leans in. She becomes curious. She starts to give. Not because you played a trick, but because you stopped giving all your light to someone who didn't return it. And now, she's the one reaching. She's the one thinking. She's the one who wants back in. This is not about ego. This is not about pride. This is about balance, because relationships should not be one-sided. Love should not feel like chasing a ghost. You should not be the only one putting in effort. And if she only values you after you stop chasing, then that tells you everything you need to know. So now ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped showing up first? Would she show up at all? If not, then maybe it was never real in the first place. Are you brave enough to find out? She feels it most when you're nowhere to be found. Let me ask you something deep. What feels louder? 100 words or the moment when everything goes quiet? You see, when a man goes quiet, when he stops being everywhere, when his presence disappears like a breeze, that's when his value hits her the hardest. Not when he sends long messages. Not when he asks how her day is. Even when she barely responds. Not when he gives her all his time. She doesn't feel it then. She feels it after. After you stop calling. After you stop showing up where she expects you. After you stop trying to prove you're worthy of her time. That space. That silence. It's powerful. Because in your absence, something magical happens. She starts to notice what you gave. The time, the peace, the steady presence. The way your energy made her feel safe, even if she didn't say it. But when you were always there, she didn't think about it. It's like air. You don't notice it until it's gone. And when you're gone, suddenly you're all she thinks about. Where did he go? Why isn't he calling me? Did I mess this up? That's when the value becomes real. That's when the mystery starts to bloom. That's when attraction begins to rise again. Because it's not your words she misses. It's your energy. And it was always your presence that made the biggest impact. Not the things you gave. Not the effort you chased with. Not the sweet messages or the kind reminders. It was the man you were when you stood strong in silence. Not angry, not cold, not playing games. Just calm. Focused. Unbothered. You were simply living your life. And she could either join your path or be left behind. That's the part many men never learn. When you disappear in peace, you speak louder than any words ever could. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, to chase, to reach, don't. Let your absence carry the message. Let your silence be your strength. Let her feel the empty space you used to fill. Because when your presence was a gift, your absence becomes a lesson. Chasing her is not love. It's losing yourself. Let me tell you something a lot of men don't realize. You can chase a woman so much, you forget who you are. You forget what you like, what you enjoy, what you wanted in the first place, all because you're too busy running after her. Calling, texting, waiting, hoping, and every time she pulls away, you run faster. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't require chasing. You don't have to beg someone to see your worth. You don't have to keep proving you're enough. Because the more you chase her, the more she pulls back. Why? Because chasing doesn't look strong. It looks needy. It shows her you put her above your own peace. It tells her you're willing to give up your power, your time, even your dignity, just to keep her around. But she doesn't want that. She wants a man who has a mission, a man who knows where he's going, a man who doesn't slow down just to be liked. Think about this. Would you chase someone who walks away from you over and over again? Would you keep knocking on a door that never opens? No? Then why do it in love? The world has taught men the wrong lesson. Keep trying, keep giving, don't stop until she chooses you. But that's not love. That's sacrifice without respect. You weren't made to be a backup plan. You weren't made to be an option. You were made to be the man who chooses himself first. And when you choose yourself, when you stop chasing and start walking your own path, that's when everything shifts. Suddenly, she notices you're not following anymore. She wonders what you're doing, where you went, why you're not begging for her time. That's when she feels the difference. You went from a man who needs her attention to a man who's too busy building his purpose. And that's when she feels something she didn't expect. Respect. Why your absence speaks louder than your words. Have you ever noticed something strange? When you're always around, always calling, always giving her your time, she doesn't seem to care that much. But the moment you stop showing up, the moment you get quiet, she starts to wonder, where is he? That's not a trick. That's not a game. That's just human nature. People don't miss what's always there. They miss what disappears. And when you disappear, not out of anger, not to punish, but because you're finally living your life, that silence becomes powerful. You're not chasing. You're not explaining. You're just gone. And that absence, it's louder than all the texts, calls, and good morning messages in the world. She starts to think. She remembers what it felt like to have your energy. She replays the way you looked at her, the way you made her feel, the way you made her chase your attention for once. But here's the secret. If you disappear just to make her miss you, it won't work. She'll feel the manipulation, and women can sense when a man is pretending to be strong. But if you disappear because you're finally focused on you, because your time, your purpose, your peace is more important than chasing someone who doesn't value you, that's when your absence becomes real. And real absence hits harder than any speech you could give. You don't need to explain. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to send long messages about how you deserve better. You just let silence do the talking. Because silence is what makes a woman feel your power. She remembers the man who was always there. Then she realizes he's not there anymore. Not because you're mad. Not because you want her to come back, but because you finally did. You came back to yourself. That kind of energy, it's magnetic and it can't be faked. So let me ask you this. Are you strong enough to walk away without needing her to follow? If you are, then what comes next will surprise you. The man who stands still becomes her safe place. What if I told you that you don't need to chase her? You don't need to prove anything? You don't even need to move? What if standing still is where your real power is? See, most men panic when she pulls away. They text faster, call more, try harder. But you're not most men. You're calm, still, steady like a mountain. You don't rush to win her back. You don't beg for her time. You don't try to fix her mood or force her to care. You simply stand in your spot, peaceful, clear, rooted in who you are. That silence, that calmness, it does something to her. She starts to look back. She starts to wonder, why isn't he reacting? She thought you'd chase. She thought you'd panic. But you didn't. Instead, you showed strength. Not loud strength, but quiet strength. A kind of power that feels safe, unshakable, manly. She may not admit it, but that stillness, it pulls at her heart more than any poem or gift ever could. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to scream it. You just are. That's the difference between a man who needs her and a man who knows he doesn't. When you stand still with peace, when you keep living your life, you become something rare. You become the place she knows she can return to. If she's ready, if she's worthy, if she truly sees you, and if she never comes back, you still win because you stay true to you. Let her feel the space you're no longer filling. What happens when she reaches for you and you're not there anymore? Not in anger, not to teach her a lesson, but because you're just living your life. That moment, it shakes her. You see, most guys are always available, always saying yes, always picking up the phone, always trying to stay in her mind. But that's not you anymore. Now you've stepped back, not to punish her, but to give her something more powerful than your presence, your absence, your time, your energy, your attention. They're no longer free. They have value now. You're no longer filling every empty space in her day. You're no longer showing up the second she snaps her fingers and she starts to notice. The silence gets louder. The air feels different. She feels the weight of your missing energy. And suddenly, that maybe she kept you on, it doesn't feel so safe anymore. Because the man she thought would always be there is now gone. Not lost, not bitter, not cold. Just gone. Into his purpose. Into his world. Into his peace. That's when she looks around and asks herself, did I take him for granted? Why do I miss him now? Why does his silence feel stronger than any words I've heard? Here's the truth. When you stop filling her space, she realizes the space was filled by a man who brought calm, power, and presence. But now he's not waiting, not begging, not hoping. He's living. So ask yourself, are you giving her so much that she doesn't feel what life is like without you? Or are you strong enough to let her sit in that space and miss what she once thought would always be there? She can't miss a man who never leaves. Let me ask you something powerful. How can she miss you if you're always there? Always texting first, always waiting around, always ready with a yes. You think you're showing love, but what she feels is no mystery, no tension, no space to breathe. See, people chase what's not easy. People want what's not always in reach. And if she never has to wonder where you are, what you're doing, or who you're becoming, then you're not a man of mystery. You're just a man on standby. Let that sink in. You're not supposed to disappear forever, but you're not meant to hover either. You're meant to lead a life so full, so bold, so busy with meaning, that even you forget to text back sometimes. Not because you're playing games, but because your life is too rich, too deep, too purposeful, to always be stuck in her orbit. And guess what happens? She starts thinking, where is he today? Why didn't he like my post? Why does he feel different? And just like that, her mind is back on you. Not because you begged, not because you chased, but because you vanished into something bigger. Your mission, your peace, your path. And that right there is when the shift happens. That's when she stops feeling in control and starts feeling curiosity, desire, respect. Because now, you're not a man waiting for her to pick you. You're a man she has to reach for. The power of not explaining yourself. Here's a secret nobody tells you. Real power, it's not in shouting. It's not in begging. It's not in explaining every little thing you do. No. Real power is quiet. It's calm. It doesn't need to prove anything. When you're always explaining why you didn't reply, why you're busy today, why you need space, you're giving away your power. Why? Because the moment you start trying to make her understand your worth, you're already saying, please don't leave. But a Stoic man, he doesn't fear that. He knows his time is gold. He knows his silence says more than any text ever could. And he knows he does not owe anyone a reason for being focused on his purpose. You see, when a woman feels your calm energy, when she notices you're not chasing, not explaining, not begging, she starts to lean in. She starts to think, why is he so calm? Why doesn't he react? Why does his silence feel strong? Because you're not cold. You're just centered. You're not rude. You're just rooted in purpose. You don't walk away to hurt her. You walk away because you've got something better to walk toward. That's what makes you valuable. Not your words, not your promises, but your peace, your silence, your control. The man who talks less but lives more, he's unforgettable. So next time she pulls away or tests your energy, don't explain, don't chase, don't shake. Just observe and stay still. Because your stillness, that's the moment she feels your power the most. Now tell me, are you ready for the final page? The page that wraps everything together and leaves no doubts? When you're not easy to reach, you become impossible to replace. Let me ask you something. What happens when you're always available, always answering fast, always saying yes, always ready to drop everything for her? At first, she might like it. But then, something changes. She starts to treat it like it's normal, like it's expected, like your attention isn't special anymore. But now, let's flip it. What happens when you're not always there? Not rude, not cold, just focused, busy, calm. You're living your life. You're building your world. You're not watching your phone all day. You're not waiting on her mood. Suddenly, she feels something different. She starts to wonder, where is he? What is he doing? Why does it feel weird without him here? And that right there is where attraction is born. Not from being too close, not from smothering her with effort, but from letting her feel your absence, not as a trick, not as a game, but because you've got a real life, a mission, a reason to wake up every day, with or without her. That's what makes you rare. You're not another guy trying to get her attention. You are the man who doesn't chase because he's already complete. She doesn't want a man she can always reach. She wants the man who's so deep in purpose, she has to rise just to catch his eye. So remember this. Your worth isn't proven by how often you show up. It's proven by how well you've built a life that doesn't need her presence to feel full. Let her earn your time. Let her feel your distance. Let her miss your peace. And in doing so, you won't just get her attention. You'll get her respect. Now ask yourself, will you keep being easy to reach, or finally become impossible to forget? The choice is yours.